When we think about early Christianity, we often picture this single, unified faith, right? But the reality? Oh, it was way more complex, and honestly, a lot more contentious. In those first couple of centuries, Christianity was this vibrant, kind of chaotic landscape of competing ideas, all fighting to define what faith even meant. Okay, let's dive into this battle for belief.
Now, get this. This isn't a criticism coming from some outsider. This is an accusation from inside the New Testament itself. The author, writing in the name of the Apostle Paul, is calling out fellow Christians for a belief he sees as so dangerous it could wreck the whole foundation of the faith.
I mean, how could anyone claim the resurrection had already happened? This wasn't some minor disagreement. This was the fault line of a massive theological earthquake. And to understand it, we've got to look at the two sides that were clashing for the very soul of this new religion.
So, on one side, you have the tradition that would eventually become mainstream Christianity, what scholars call the Proto-Orthodox faith. And on the other side, a whole diverse array of spiritual movements that we now kind of lump together under the name Gnosticism. These weren't just two different denominations. We're talking about two fundamentally different ways of seeing the entire world.
The Proto-Orthodox view, which you see laid out in books like 1st and 2nd Timothy, was all about a future hope, the goodness of the physical world, and why a structured church was so important. The Gnostics, though, they were focused on something completely different, a secret divine knowledge that could give you salvation right now, letting your spirit escape what they saw as the prison of the material world. And that huge difference in worldview? That's what brings us to our first major flashpoint.
All right, let's get back to that startling claim that the resurrection was already past. To the Proto-Orthodox folks, this was just complete nonsense. But for the Gnostics, it was the whole point. And it all hinged on one key concept. That key concept is gnosis, the Greek word for knowledge. But for these groups, it wasn't about book smarts. It was this profound, mystical awakening, a moment of gnosis where you suddenly realized your true spiritual self was a divine spark that had gotten trapped inside a decaying body.
And this just lays the conflict bare. For the Gnostics, the resurrection was that spiritual awakening. The second you received that gnosis, it happened. Your spirit had already risen from the death of the material world. But the pastoral epistles pushed back, and they pushed back hard. They insisted the resurrection was a future physical event where your actual body would be redeemed because creation itself was good. And we're not just guessing here. We have writings from these groups that confirm this exact view. The Gnostic Gospel of Philip says it flat out. Waiting for a resurrection after you die is a mistake. The real resurrection, the only one that actually matters, has to happen while you're alive. This wasn't just a different timeline. It was a completely different understanding of salvation, the body, and the world itself.
This leads us right into the second battlefront, this radical disagreement over whether the physical world was a divine creation or maybe just a cosmic mistake.
You see, at the heart of many of these Gnostic systems was a really stark dualism. The world of the spirit, pure, good, created by a perfect God. But the material world, they saw it as this flawed, even evil creation, made by a lesser, ignorant deity. Your body wasn't a gift, it was a cage.
And a belief like that has real-world consequences. The author of 1 Timothy is warning about teachers who are forbidding marriage and telling their followers to abstain from certain foods. And why? Well, if you believe matter is evil, then it makes sense that you should reject the things that create more of it. This link between theology and praxis is just fascinating. You had groups known as Encratites, who were influenced by thinkers like Marcion, and they saw marriage, which leads to procreation and trapping more spirits in flesh, as fundamentally corrupt. The response from the pastoral author is fierce. He says this isn't piety. It's a demonic doctrine that basically insults God, who created everything to be good. Now, the author of the pastorals didn't just disagree with Gnostic ideas. He framed them as a dangerous contagion. This wasn't an intellectual debate for him. It was a matter of public health for the church. It's a dynamic we still see today, right? When certain ideas get labeled as toxic or unhealthy. This is the actual word used in 2 Timothy to describe the teachings of those who claimed the resurrection was already past. Not a mistake, not a wrong opinion, a gangrene, a disease that literally eats away at living flesh and spreads. This medical language is a totally deliberate strategy. The pastorals are constantly talking about their own teachings as sound or healthy doctrine. The original Greek is hygienousa didaskalia,
which is actually where we get our word hygiene. And in contrast, the Gnostic search for new knowledge gets painted as a sickness. It's a really powerful rhetorical move that reframes the whole conflict. You don't debate a disease, you quarantine it and you try to eradicate it. And right here, the author takes his most direct shot. The Greek word for knowledge in this verse is gnosis. He's telling his followers to avoid the contradictions of what is falsely called gnosis. I mean, that's a crystal clear dismissal of the entire foundation of his opponent's worldview. Okay, so if Gnostic ideas are a dangerous disease, how do you stop the infection from spreading? Well, for the pastorals, the answer was pretty simple. You build an immune system. You create order, structure, and really clear lines of authority.
A really important word here is eusebeia, or godliness. Now, this word isn't just about personal piety. It's about proper public conduct, social stability, and respectability. It really shows a shift from a more charismatic movement to an established institution.
And the emphasis on this is striking. The term eusebeia shows up 10 times in these 3 short letters. But in the undisputed letters of Paul, it's pretty much absent. This points to a new, urgent concern for creating a stable, well-ordered community that could stand against what they saw as the chaos of Gnostic individualism. This concern for order becomes really concrete in the church hierarchy that the pastorals describe. Unlike the earlier, more free-form communities, here we see these defined roles with specific qualifications: bishops, elders, and deacons. This whole structure was designed to be the guardian of healthy doctrine, the firewall against heresy. And ultimately, the vision laid out in the pastoral epistles won. The belief in a future, physical resurrection, the affirmation that creation is good, and a hierarchical church structure. These became the cornerstones of what we now know as mainstream Orthodox Christianity. And this whole story leaves us with a really provocative question, doesn't it? This ancient battle for belief raises a timeless issue. In any system of thought, whether it's religious or secular, who gets to draw that line? Who holds the authority to decide what counts as healthy truth versus what is a dangerous sickness of ideas? It's a question they were fighting over back then, and frankly, one we're still wrestling with today.